Hello, everybody. My name is Donald Wheeler. I'm from Emmanuel. This is a welcoming and affirming church, and we have a tradition of really respecting the faith traditions of other people. And we're going to put it right up there by the candles, but somebody told us the wax might fall on the picture. So this was done by Connie Buckler-Gill, who is the wife of the pastor, Reverend Dr. Ken Gill, who's the pastor of our church. And it has a lot of the world religions, and I don't know if there's a place for I don't know, or I haven't decided yet, or really I don't care about religion at all. But those are places of worship in Ridgewood, mostly, I would say, are welcoming to people who are looking for anything that they can find meaning in their lives. I'm here because the Community Peace and Justice Forum that meets in this church is one of the co-sponsors of this group, and also, as you can see on your flyer, the Social Responsibilities Council of the Unitarian Society. I told them to hold their mic like this, so I guess I better do that. I've been guilty of this before. You got it, right? Okay. So I had a piece of paper that I was working from, but I don't have that anymore. Needless to say, you're all welcome. When I was looking at the preliminaries before we got started, it was obvious something that we've been feeling is, when are the young people going to take over our faith institutions? Well, we're ready to let it happen, and it looks like people are ready to find a way to express their beliefs and meaning in one way or another. And I think one of the exciting things about this venture tonight is that the people that put it together, that is the students from the two student groups that are Bergen County in Reach. So it's been inspiring to work with them, and they're awesome, to use that word, just awesome. I can't imagine us in my generation being able to even think of doing this kind of thing. So they are the future, and we're very, very proud of them. A few household things. The restrooms are straight up out that door. There's one around the corner, and then down the hall, there's another restrooms for men and women. After this is over, we're going to have a reception up the stairs there. So please go up and grab something to eat and say a few things to other people that you didn't have a chance to talk to yet. And now I think it's time for us to hear from those young people and their leaders that put this program together. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
Hello? Is this on? Is it on? What? Is it work? Yeah, okay. There we go. Tilt it up. Oh, tilt it up. I'm tall, I'm sorry. Hello? Okay, where we go. A year ago today, the nation watched in horror as we waited to hear the death toll of yet another mass shooting. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School has joined Columbine and Sandy Hook as the site of the deadliest school shootings in American history. 17, 17 was the final number, 14 young people just starting their lives, and 3 educators who died protecting their students. 17 people who would not return home that night, 17 families torn apart. There were dozens more with physical wounds and countless others who will carry emotional scars for the rest of their lives. Since Parkland, there has been over 73 school shootings on U.S. soil. In 2018, almost 40,000 people died due to gun violence, and about 1,200 children have died from a bullet since the mass shooting in Parkland, Florida. I would like to share 13 names with you. Giovanni Mariano, 10 years old. Ishmael Anthony, 18. Tashawn Robinson, 17. Jennifer Trio Gomez, 9. Jabari Monteplaisir, 17. Michael McLaughlin, 17. Jada Founder, 17. Jaden Saunders, 17. Giovanni Davis, 15. Thomas Reyes, 18. Juden Holmes, 16. Ibn Hatcher Downey, 18. Jayla Green, 16. These are the 13 children and teens who have died as a result of gun violence in New Jersey since Parkland. Jayla was shot in the head as she attended a vigil for 2 friends that had been killed in a car crash. Giovanni was shot numerous times while he walked home from school. He was just accepted to Rutgers Future Scholars Mentorship Program. Jade was looking forward to graduation in 8 months, but someone entered the hallway of the building she was in and fatally shot her. Tashawn was a local youth mentor, a camp counselor, who was gunned down in a drive-by shooting. Jaden's older brother, Angel, heard a loud noise outside and ran. When he got outside, he found his brother unresponsive on the ground. Shortly before his murder, Thomas posted a video of him cutting a friend's hair, and he said he wanted to perfect that art, that it was his only way out. Michael was a student athlete who had led his football and basketball team to championship games before he was killed in the middle of an August afternoon. Judan was shot dead in Jersey City the day after Christmas. Jabai was killed last summer in a double homicide. Ishmael was murdered on the streets of Newark 8 days after the Parkland shooting. Ibn was a member of a founding class at Eagle Academy for young men in Newark before his life was taken from him on January 1st, the first homicide of the new year. Giovanni died at his home while it was sprayed with bullets. Before his death, the 10-year-old liked having snowball fights and riding his bike. Shots were fired near 9-year-old Jennifer's home. One stray bullet struck and killed her as she sat in her bed. She had $60 in her piggy bank. She was saving the money to go to college. She wanted to be a teacher one day. Those were the 13 of our young neighbors who were taken too soon, like the 14 young people killed in Parkland 1 year ago today. They deserve the chance to pursue their dreams, to see what that world had to offer, and we deserve to see what they could have offered the world. They had the right to grow up and grow old, and the right was stolen from each and every one of them. In the past year, a movement was born, a movement inspired by young people standing up and saying enough. Progress has been made, but there are still almost 100 people dying a day as a result of gun violence. We must continue the fight for a better future for generations to follow, and I assure you we will. Tonight, we are here in remembrance of the 17 precious lives lost at Marjory Stoneman Douglas a year ago today. But let's also take a moment to remember everyone has died in our country due to gun violence. Today we remember, tomorrow we continue to act.
Hi, my name is Avery Paulin, and I'm here to talk about Alyssa Al-Hadaf. Alyssa was an extremely talented soccer player who loved the game since she was 3 years old. According to her mother, the day before Alyssa was killed, she had played the best soccer game of her life. She was a highly intelligent, hardworking student who had been planning to take many high-level classes in her sophomore year, even more proof of her academic ability. Her mother describes her as compassionate and kind, and she had so many people in her life who loved her. The Al-Hadaf home is filled with many memorials of Alyssa, including collages made by her best friend, household objects with her face printed on them, and old artwork she had made by melting crayons. Alyssa was a beautiful, lively, young girl full of spirit who enjoyed face masks, the color blue, and according to her mother, boys. This year, Alyssa would have been celebrating her Sweet 16 on May 1st. Kara Logren, age 14. Kara studied Irish dance at Coral Springs, Drake School of Irish Dance in South Florida. She was deeply passionate about her dancing and was loved by the entire dance school. Many of Coral Springs' public statements about her speak to her talent, kindness, and overall spirit. Kara's aunt has spoken out about her, saying that she was excellent with children, especially with her younger cousins. According to the Irish Times, Kara was supposed to visit her grandparents in Ireland that summer. She was a gorgeous girl with golden hair, and she always had a smile on her face, lighting up every room she walked into. Kara was adored everywhere she went.
Hi, I'm Casey. I'm talking about Martin Duquet and Jamie Gutenberg. Martin was friendly, fun, and extroverted. Born in a small town in southwest Mexico, Martin immigrated with his family to the United States, where some of his family already lived. Martin was a dedicated, hardworking student with good grades and a strong academic foundation at his high school. Being a devout churchgoer, his religion was also one of his priorities. Martin, along with 2 other shooting victims, was a junior ROTC cadet whose funeral was attended by members of the Florida National Guard. He received a medal for heroism by the Department of the Army, and, according to Cadet Command Regulation, the achievement must result in accomplishment so exceptional and outstanding as to clearly set the individual apart from fellow students or from other people in similar circumstances. The performance must involve the acceptance of danger or extraordinary responsibilities, exemplifying praiseworthy fortitude and courage. Retired Major Peter Mahmoud wrote on Facebook, "It is with broken hearts that Stoneman Douglas, JROTC, shares the loss of our soaring eagles. These people were truly better citizens and better people. We honor them and will miss their courage, tenacity, and their smiles." Jamie Gutenberg, age 14. Jamie is described as kind above all else. She was compassionate, sensitive, and sweet, and always looked out for the underdog. She refused to let others be bullied. She will be remembered as someone who put others before herself. According to her friends and her family, she was radiant and beautiful and had a smile that could light up a room. Abby Euclid, Jamie's aunt, says that she was feisty and intelligent. Jamie was also a gifted dancer who stood out amongst her peers. Photos show not only her skill, but passion for the art. Jamie's father spoke out against gun violence, starting the organization Orange Ribbons for Jamie, and Jamie's mother states, "I am heartbroken, I am empty."
Three more freshmen were victims of the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, no older than me, barely halfway through their first year of high school, shot and killed on Valentine's Day, a day meant for love. Gina Montaldo was a 14-year-old freshman who was known for lighting up a room. She was a part of the Winter Color Guard squad at MSD. Gina was an active volunteer in her church community, the St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Catholic Hall Church. She was an avid Girl Scout and a soccer player. She loved Harry Potter, cooking, and fashion. Let it be known that Elena Petty loved to volunteer and help those around her in any way that she could. Elena Petty, only 14, was an active member of the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, and she was honored by the U.S. Army Cadet Command. After Hurricane Irma, Elena helped rebuild parts of Florida. She had a passion for crime shows, dogs, Spanish music, and her country. Alex Schachter was a musician, car aficionado, and an athlete. He played the trombone and the baritone and was very talented musically. At 14, Alex had dreams of qualifying for DECA States or being accepted into his dream school, the University of Connecticut. He was posthumously accepted into the School of Fine Arts at the University of Connecticut. A little too soon, but yet too late. Gina, Alina, and Alex's lives were all ended too soon.
I'm here to tell you a bit about the lives of Luke Hoyer, Peter Wang, and Carmen Gentrup. Luke Hoyer was a 15-year-old freshman when he died. He had a strong love for basketball, especially for LeBron James. He loved McDonald's chicken nuggets, video games, and his dog. His aunt said he didn't know what he wanted to do yet. He was just a freshman and was looking forward to high school. He was described as a happy-go-lucky kid. His family said Luke didn't need to say much, just having him around the room made him feel warm and welcoming. Peter Wang was also a 15-year-old freshman when he died. He was a member of the U.S. Army Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps and planned on attending West Point when he got older. He liked hip-hop music, basketball, and spending time with his friends. He sacrificed his life last year today to protect his friends and classmates. After his death, he was posthumously admitted into West Point. He was buried with the ROTC Medal for Heroism. Carmen Gentrup was a 16-year-old senior when she died. She was 7 days away from her 17th birthday. Her friends described her as witty, smart, and insightful. She was a national merit finalist, but unfortunately the letter letting her know arrived in the mail the day after she passed, so she never found out. She planned on either attending the University of Florida or the University of Washington. Her goal was to be a medical scientist and find the cure for ALS. All the lives lost February 14th were lost many years too early. Today we remember their lives and the countless others lost to gun violence every day.
Helena Ramsey was 17 years old when she lost her life due to gun violence a year ago today. Her family described her as brilliant and witty. She had relentless motivation towards her academic studies and brought out the best in those around her. She is originally from England and loved to travel. She was the kind of young woman that anyone would be proud to call a daughter, sister, and a friend. Nicholas Dwart was also 17 years old and just committed to swim at the University of Indianapolis before he lost his life. He dreamed about going to the 2020 Olympics. His family said he believed he could accomplish anything as long as he tried his best. He mentored many of his fellow swimmers and had an infectious smile.
"18-year-old Meadow Polak was a senior at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Waiting, like many seniors, to attend college, she planned to enroll at the University of Boca Raton. Once she graduated with the rest of her class, Meadow's heroism gleamed. After being shot 4 times, she used her body to cover Carol Loughran's body, but unfortunately, she too passed. Joaquin Oliver, 17 years old, was a loving senior. He enjoyed playing soccer, football, and basketball. His family immigrated from Venezuela, and he loved to embrace his roots. He, like Meadow and fellow classmates, were expecting to graduate June 3rd. His friends and family coined the name Guac. After his passing, his parents began the organization Change the Ref in order to empower and educate the youth in the fight to end gun violence.
Aaron Feiss, 37, was an assistant football coach. He was killed when he threw himself in front of students, to protect them from oncoming bullets. Coach Feiss suffered a gunshot wound and died after he was rushed into surgery. Several students and colleagues commented that he always looked out for others and put their needs ahead of his own. During the shooting, he was witnessed running toward the sound of gunshots. I'm sorry. My dad was a high school teacher for many years, so it feels very personal. Scott Beagle, age 35, was a beloved geography teacher. He was also a counselor at Camp Starlight in Pennsylvania. which called him a friend and hero on Facebook. Vigil was reportedly killed as he tried to usher students back into his classroom when the shooting broke out. At least one of his students told CNN that he was shot outside the classroom door and that he saved her life. Chris Hickson, 49, was the school's athletic director. According to his widow, Deborah, he thought of every one of his students as his own kid. Hickson would give students rides or lunch money, and if they needed it, open up his home to them. He was also a naval reservist, having been deployed to Iraq in 2007. Hickson was also the school's wrestling coach, something that was one of his passions.
Hello, my name is Sarah Emily Baum. I'm 18 years old, and I'm from Marlboro, New Jersey. I want to talk a little bit about why we're here. And I don't mean here as in gathered together for a cause. We know why we're here, gun violence. I mean, I want to talk about why we're here in a church instead of City Hall, and why we're holding candlelight rather than protest signs today. Our country, our generation is so downtrodden. We are oversaturated with grief. Between one tragedy to the next, it can be hard to sustain ourselves and our cause. The lines blur, and our motivation wanes because there is so much pain and so much hurt. It seems impossible to wrap our heads around. 40,000 American lives claimed by guns each year, 96 a day, 15 of them children. Too often, we bury our kids and then our consciences with them. Or we get caught up in the momentum of what could be and too soon forget what already is. That 17 innocent people were murdered, and they weren't the first to have to die like that. Terrified, confused, and in the place where they should have been most safe. We need to stay grounded enough to remember that. We must remember why we are fighting. We must remember Alyssa's gorgeous smile, and Carmen's biting wit, and Alex's wonderful poems. That is what matters most, and that is why we are fighting. Not that it could happen to us, but that it already happened to others and continues to happen to others every day. No mother should have to mourn alone. It is our collective burden to bear. So today, we grieve, but we also celebrate. We let them continue to see life through us and our actions and our unwavering commitment to doing what is right and good. They will live on through us, and we will live, and we will love, and we will love, and we will love. Keep close those you care about. What an incredible privilege it is to have something worth fighting for. Happy Valentine's Day.
Good evening. I'm going to take this down because you won't be able to see my face otherwise. My name is Larissa Mendez Downs, and I am the co-lead of Moms Demand Action here in Bergen County. Lawrence asked me to speak to you tonight about one of my science teachers at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. When I had him many years ago, he had just started teaching, and he's still there. This is his 25th year of teaching at Douglas. I asked him if I could excerpt from a beautiful essay that he wrote about his experience last year, and we've kept in touch since, and I'm going to excerpt a little bit from that essay. In 2016, he asked if he could have some of the land that previously had been old portable classrooms. And since he's a science teacher and now is an astronomy teacher, he wanted it for science and STEM purposes. And he thought maybe I'll do a garden, Marjorie's garden. As some of you may know, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas was an environmentalist in Florida, and she dedicated her life to preserving the Everglades. So he thought, Marjorie's garden. And he's a believer in project-based learning. I almost failed a couple of science programs because of that, but he was lovely and incredibly patient. And as he was then, Mr. Kyle Jeter, encouraged his students to take a lead, design projects, do the research, and started on the garden. With grants and donations and help from the community, the garden grew, and he began having astronomy nights and even enlisted fellow teachers, so that he even ended up having full moon yoga. And now I'll excerpt from his essay. Valentine's Day 2018 began for me in the garden. About a third of it wasn't being irrigated properly, and I arrived early that day to tentatively lay out some PVC pipes and sprinkler heads. Just before the first bell rang, I entered my classroom and glanced at the new wooden bench that Mr. Tracy's engineering class had delivered for us. Having picked up some bright green exterior paint the night before, I asked for a volunteer to paint the bench after the day's lecture. As usual, my first hour class of seniors weren't quite fully awake, and only a single hand went up. That hand, not surprisingly at all, belonged to one of my most creative and enthusiastic students, a young lady named Emma Gonzalez. Note, if you see the green bench in Marjorie's garden, please know that it is now and forever will be Emma's bench. About 20 minutes before the final school bell rang that day, the fire alarm went off. Having had a drill earlier in the day, I assumed that someone from facilities had either accidentally triggered the alarm or that a student had pulled it in hopes of going home early. My fourth hour class casually shuffled out of the classroom. As the last student crossed the threshold, however, a more urgent call of evacuate the building came over the intercom, and for the first time, an inkling of concern crept into my mind. Over the next couple hours, that concern metastasized, revelation by horrifying revelation, into a nightmare of unthinkable proportions. 17 dead. 17. I'd already walked to my son's school and picked him up when that unimaginable number darted across a text alert on my phone. My heart stopped. Our school, where my daughter had graduated and where my son would soon attend, was going to be a Columbine, a Virginia Tech, a Sandy Hook. The first few days of the aftermath are a blur to me. I hadn't cried that often or incessantly since 9/11, but the profound sadness of this tragedy was more personal this time and managed to cut even deeper. My emotions toggled between sadness and anger and even guilt. I was addicted to the news and began seeing my colleagues and students filling the airwaves. I couldn't sleep, and the fact that I live across the street from the school didn't help. 3 or more helicopters hovered overhead day and night. Dozens of media trucks and trailers literally blocked the entrance to my community. I spent each evening attending candlelight vigils and trying to comfort my grieving students with the offer of a hug or a shoulder to cry on, but it didn't seem like enough. A nagging feeling was growing in my heart that I needed to do more. Then I remembered the garden. No one was tending it. It hadn't rained that week and plants needed watering. At least now I had a small but tangible mission. On February 18, 2018, I woke just before dawn and walked with purpose toward the school. I slipped through the now slumbering media circus and even through the first layer of security without a hitch, but the security levels intensified as I passed from local to state to federal officials. After a brief negotiation with the FBI, I was finally allowed access to the garden. Having been a teacher at MSD for 24 years, just over half my life, I didn't think it was possible for me to feel like a stranger at my own school, but I did, at least until I reached the garden. There it was, beautifully green and remarkably untouched by the surrounding chaos. I felt like I was in the eye of a storm, of a tremendous hurricane swirling around me. But there in the garden it was peaceful and quiet and blessedly tranquil. For the first time in days, I felt a sense of normalcy. I sat on our modest classroom stage and watched the rising sun's rays illuminate our little oasis, and in that moment I found my purpose. We were going to finish building the garden, and we were going to make it better than ever. We were going to create a welcoming place for our students and staff to hopefully discover the same sense of tranquility that I was relishing at that moment. My mission was clear. The next few days were spent by many of us attending visitations and funerals, each its own tragedy, each an incalculable loss and senseless loss. There were so many scheduled that we had to pick and choose which to attend. The first day back at school for the students was one of the most difficult days I've ever experienced as a teacher. What do you say to students who watch their friends die next to them, or hid in fear during the chaos, or who lost their coach, or their teacher, or their sibling? One of my students, a quiet, young, smart, kind man, lost his younger sister. Another was badly injured. Thankfully, she recovered remarkably well. Someone in our department suggested that the students paint rocks the first couple days back as a kind of therapy. Lasara's nursery, who had previously supported our garden, contacted a rock quarry that donated half a ton of river rocks for that purpose. Most of those rocks eventually found a home in Marjorie's garden. One of the most effective sources of healing came from the therapy dogs that began populating the campus. As you can imagine, the dogs loved to be in the garden, and that alone began to draw classes into the garden, including my own. As more classes began enjoying the garden, including those permanently displaced from their room in the 1200 building, which is where the shooting mostly occurred, I was just thankful that students and staff had a place to go. I don't claim to understand all of the anxieties and pressures that young people are dealing with today, and I can't claim that access to sunshine and greenery and fresh air will solve every difficulty that they face in life. But I know in my heart that such green places are important and necessary and make our schools and communities stronger and healthier and more vibrant. They're pockets of positivity in a world that is too often negative, divided, and sadly violent. I believe that if just one person turns away from violence or suicide or opioid use because they have a shovel in their hand or flowers to plant or vegetables to harvest, or even stars to gaze at, then it was worth it as a society to have provided them with those opportunities to interact with nature and with each other. That's my hope for other schools and communities throughout our great country, and that's my motivation moving forward with Marjorie's Garden. And you can find the full blog post that Mr. Jeter posted online. I can give the URL to Lawrence and he can share it. And I just want to say personally that it's easy to be overwhelmed by the tragic sense of loss and despair that gun violence breeds in this country. I certainly feel that way many times myself, because it can feel unrelentless and remorseless. But I do want to echo something that Mr. Jeter said, and which is why I believe all of us are here today, and why these wonderful young people continue to fight every day. And that's that we can ultimately create small, tangible missions, and together we can and will make a difference. We will win this for our survivors, for the memories of those lost, and for each other. And now I'd like to please take a moment of silence to remember the 17 that we're remembering today and all of those lost to gun violence for the last year. Thank you. I'd like to invite our next speaker.
Hi, I'm just going to go up there for convenience purposes.
Imagine all the Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
My name is Lawrence Fine. I am a sophomore at Ridgewood High School and the leader of Students Demand Action Bergen County. On this Valentine's Day, let's take a moment to remember those who lost their lives. They were just like us, athletes, artists, musicians, hard-working young people with bright futures ahead of them. Their lives have been taken away far too early. There was the Columbine school shooting, the Sandy Hook Elementary school shooting, the Pulse nightclub mass shooting, the Las Vegas concert mass shooting, the Pittsburgh synagogue mass shooting, the Parkland school shooting, and so many more. As time goes on, the issue of gun violence hurts us more and more. We need to resolve this crisis. Gun violence is preventable. Yet, 36,000 people die from gun violence in America every year. That is more than the population of Ridgewood, significantly more. So it is appalling that a Ridgewood disappears from this country every year. We should not have to have these vigils. We should not have to continue enduring the epidemic of gun violence in America. In this past year, over 1,200 American kids have been killed by guns. Parents should not have to continue losing their children. No one should have to fear mass shootings. It does not have to be this way. This is the United States of America. It has been an entire year since the Parkland school shooting. In this past year, we organized and rallied through many walkouts and marches. Leading up to the midterm elections, Students Demand Action Bergen County registered almost 600 voters in Bergen County high schools. Part of the mission of Students Demand Action is to empower people's voices in democracy to take a stand on the issue of gun violence. We also had countless of other meetings, events, and we knocked on hundreds and hundreds of doors. I am proud of the progress we have made, but 100 Americans still die from gun violence every single day. Although we have a long way to go towards eradicating gun violence, I believe that if we as people join together like we are doing today, we can really end this epidemic. To spread awareness of this issue, talk with our neighbors. Remember these lives who were lost in this horrific mass shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. The greatest power in America is the power of the people. And that is why it is so important that we stay active in this movement, because to really achieve this goal of ending gun violence, we need all of you. Everyone here can make a difference. Join March for Our Lives. Join Students Demand Action. Join Moms Demand Action. You can talk to me. You can talk to Sarah, Elena, Larissa, and Lisa with Moms Demand Action. It is so easy to get involved and make a difference, and everyone here is capable of doing so. Everyone here can get involved and make a difference, and it is so important. Together, we can change this country, make our community safer, and end this senseless violence so we can truly say, never again.
I just wanted to thank you all for coming. I know it's a hard time of year, especially when we are here for such a sad cause on a day that Valentine's Day was meant to be with the ones you love, and there's so many in this country that aren't with the people they love today due to gun violence. So I would like to end it there. There'll be things, I think, refreshments up there, and I really hope you all continue remembering and continue acting. Thank you.
Tonight's live streamed, and you can look at the whole thing again at emmanuelridgewood.org, or just go for Emmanuel and you'll be able to find the website if you want it. Thank you.